Week 12 of fantasy hockey is slowly approaching, which means we're also in the holiday season right now. We are very close to Christmas, and I want to let everybody know, if you didn't see already on the channel, me and Chris are taking some time off over the next 2 weeks. We're still going to be producing some videos, but we want to spend the time with our friends and family during the holiday break, and hopefully you do the same. I also want to say thank you so much for all the support this season. We're about 10 subscribers away from our goal, which was 8,000 subscribers this year. Again, thank you so much for all the continued support. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to click that subscribe button to get us to 8,000 and help us continue build an awesome fantasy hockey community that we've been building over the last 3 seasons. I'm not going to drag this on too long, guys. It's going to be a good video, the buy, sell, and hold video, which had some very good feedback on the last one that was produced. So my name is Mike. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the content. Alex Ovechkin is the first player that I would be looking to buy going into week 12 right now and for the long term. I think a lot of people are just selling way too low on Ovechkin right now, even though he's still producing very similar to what we've seen in the past in terms of shots and hit mix. It's just the goals are not going in the back of the net, and that's evident by his 4.8% shooting percentage right now. If you've drafted Ovechkin, make sure you're holding him. If you didn't draft him, this would probably be a good time to acquire a player that was taken in the second, third round, depending on your league, that should have some very strong long-term numbers, as well as giving you an extremely high floor given his very strong shot and hit mix. Right now, Alex Ovechkin is the second most unlucky player in the league. Matt Tkachuk's the most unlucky with a negative 8.1 goals scored above shooting talent. Now, this just means that Ovechkin's missed out on about 8 expected goals for this season, and these numbers are bound to regress to the mean at some point. The big thing for me when trying to identify if a player is struggling and if they can really come back to life is whether they're playing good minutes still and if they're continuing to shoot the puck at an elite rate, and we're seeing both with Ovechkin. He currently has a 32.3% share of possible ice time, the second most ice time amongst all forwards on Washington. And then his shot rate, 11.3 shots per 60, ranks 25th in the NHL, and 22.72 shot attempts per 60 ranks him 10th in the NHL. So he's still playing big minutes. He's still shooting at a very elite rate like we've seen in the past. It's just a matter of him putting the puck in the back of the net, and that's what's hurt all fantasy owners this season. His shooting percentage, 4.8% so far this season. He's a career 12.8% shooter, so roughly 8% less than his career average. And he's sat at around 15% over his last 5 seasons. So this dramatic drop off is likely to rise at some point. His current pace, 304 shots, 152 hits. If we assume just a 10% shot rate, which is about 2.8% less than his career and 5% less than his last 5 seasons, that's still a 30 goal pace. We can probably project him for about 60 points, and then the 304 shots and 152 hits. That would be equivalent to Ovechkin as a top 25 player in most leagues, but right now he's being valued as around 70 to 90, and a lot of people are selling low on him. I think this is a perfect time to acquire a guy, although 38 years old, still has a lot left in his game to be scoring goals. He's still shooting the puck at a good rate and still hitting at a really good rate. This is a perfect time to grab Ovechkin. If you're still listening to this, make sure you listen to the John Carlson bit on when I go over the Washington power play and the unlucky bounces that they've had on that power play. Next up, we have Cole Caufield. I discussed this with a member in our Discord and a very good fantasy hockey mind on Twitter at TJ Stats. I'll link his Twitter bio in the description below if you have interest in following someone that just gives very good graphical data and analytical data around players and producing breakouts and players to buy. And him and I discussed Cole Caufield as a potential player to buy given his current elite shot rate and offensive production so far this season. He is one of the best goal scorers in the entire league, 1.58 goals per 60 going into the season, which is 25th best amongst all players. He was injured last year, scored 26 goals in 46 games, on pace for a really good season. And this year, he hasn't followed that up with quite the goal scoring that we've wanted to see, but he's still maintaining an extremely elite shot rate. And like I mentioned with Ovechkin, it's opportunity and it's the minutes and it's the shot rate that you want to be seeing when trying to identify players to buy. And with Cole Caufield right now, 11.58 shots per 60, 18th best shot rate in the league, 23.16 shot attempts per 60, the 9th best rate in the league. So right above Ovechkin for both of those stats. His shooting percentage right now is just sitting at 7%. 12.4% is his career, so his shooting percentage is down nearly 5.4% from his career and down almost 10% from what we saw last season season. Right now, the big thing with Caufield is his power play points. He has 2 goals on the power play out of the 20 that Montreal scored this season, while also producing 8 power play assists. So eventually we're going to see Cole Caufield start to put these power play points in the back of the net rather than for assists. Right now, his current 82 game pace, 21 goals, 301 shots, which I don't think is sustainable at all. Eventually, the shooting percentage is going to come up if he continues to get pucks to the net at the rate that we're currently seeing this season. I would say for the rest of the season, we can predict 30 to 35 goals to finish the season. That's not from now until the end of the year. That's just his year-end total. If we can see him get to that 30-35 goal mark, he's going to be an extremely dominant second half player with 300 plus shot upside, which you can't get from a lot of players in the league right now. With Cole Caufield, it's just a matter of finding that back of the net on the power play. Although the Canadiens' power play isn't too good, which I'm going to mention very soon, Caufield, his shot rate's elite, the minutes are very high this season, the opportunity is good, and there's a lot to like for him right now. At the time of recording, just 36% of you are subscribed to the channel, so if you've enjoyed the content so far, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all the content that we're going to be pumping out for the rest of the season. In addition, we have updated our projections for the rest of the season. If you're interested in gaining access to that, head on over to our Patreon. The link will be in the description. If you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment in this video or simply message me on Discord. Let's jump back into the video, guys. Players to sell, always the most difficult segment in any video because I don't like recommending players for you to be trading away, but I try and look at some numbers as to why I can justify you trying to move some of these players. And Anze Kopitar is the first player on this list. He has put the LA Kings on his back since joining their team, but that doesn't translate over to fantasy hockey. Right now with Anze Kopitar, he's currently at the best point pace of his career as a 36-year-old, and he is also at the highest shooting percentage of his career, a 23.2% shooting rate, one of the highest percentages in the entire NHL, and I would be okay with that, very similar to Sam Reinhart, if I saw a better shot rate. But with Anze Kopitar, he just has underlying peripherals that are very, very underwhelming, and he's extremely reliant on goals, assists, and power play points, and when he's not producing at a very good rate for goals and assists, he's just not relevant in fantasy. Right now, his shot rate 6.21 shots per 60, 273rd in the entire NHL, and a 10.86 shot attempt rate, 303rd in the NHL with a minimum 100 minutes played this season. So with Kopitar here, we can probably see some regression very soon, but I can't see his shooting percentage staying at 23% when he's a career 12.9% shooter and sitting at around 13% over the last 5 seasons. Right now with Kopitar, he does have 6 power play goals and is shooting at 31% on the power play, where a player like Kevin Fiala has actually the exact same amount of shots as Anze Kopitar, but is shooting at just 3%. So right now, with Anze Kopitar, he's very lucky on the power play. I can see this beginning to progress at some point. I think right now, you can trade him as a center-only designated player for a winger or defenseman that can give you better long-term value. Someone like Sean Durzi that can give you very solid defenseman depth for a player like Kopitar who's still ranked within the top 100. Good time to sell Kopitar. Shooting percentage is high, definitely has some name value, and just one position eligibility in the most full position gives you some more justification for why you should be looking to sell him. Mike Matheson is the next player for this list. Hopefully you drafted him or picked him up early on free agency when I was telling you guys this was going to be a league winning move, and Mike Matheson this season truly has been a league winner, but this may be time to move on from a guy who you drafted extremely late or added on free agency for a struggling stud, because throughout the first 30 games, Matheson has been a top 5 to 10 defenseman, and there are some defensemen like Miro Heiskanen, Charlie McAvoy, who hasn't produced at the levels that we've wanted to see so far, that you can potentially move Matheson forward to give you way better long-term upside. Now, there aren't many sell-high defensemen. I wanted to try and mix some defensemen into this video, so I don't want to be picking too much on Matheson because I do own him in quite a bit of leagues, but I did move him in one of mine. He's just a sell high because of that late ADP, because he was a free agent ad. And if you can get a guy that's 90-95% rostered that was taken relatively early for a guy like Matheson, it's definitely worth your time. The big thing with Matheson is he does have extensive injury history. So each and every season, we look over the last 3 years and we divide the total NHL games played by that player's NHL games played, and then we come up with a reliability percentage, which eventually goes into our games played numbers. And for Matheson, he's sitting at about a 70% reliability eligibility percentage, meaning we're predicting him to miss at least 30% of the season this year. Now, it's not 100% and it's impossible for me to predict injury, but he does have injury history in the past. And sometimes, especially when you're getting a little bit older, this will come back to bite you. So you don't want to be holding Matheson and you don't want to be trading him contingent on injury, but there is that possibility. Now, right now with Matheson, he's getting very lucky in the power play. He actually has the highest power play share percentage in the entire NHL, with 60% of Montreal's goals being either assisted or scored by Michael Matheson. And this number will eventually come down to around the 50 or 40% mark, which is where a lot of the elite defensemen sit. He's still playing big minutes and he still has extremely strong peripherals this season. His block numbers are way up, but he's also playing massive minutes. So with Matheson, again, he's not classified as a full sell. I would say more of a soft sell. And if you can get him for someone like McAvoy, or if you can get Miro Heiskanen, those are definitely moves that I'd be looking to make your team better in the long term. Love Matheson. He's been a great player so far this season. He's a soft sell, not a strong sell, but someone I'd be looking to entertain some offers for in the short term. I want to give another shout out to TJ Stats for this pick. Gabe Vilardi of the Winnipeg Jets, someone that's been extremely good, was in my video at just 16% rostered. And me and TJ had a really good laugh just talking about how his roster percentage has gone up 30% over the last 2 Winnipeg Jet games. And that's because Vilardi's been extremely good. So hopefully you got to add him. If you didn't, hopefully when he was injured, you got to stash him and hold him on your IR. But since returning from injury, he's played 19 plus minutes per night in a big role, line 1, power play 1. And that's the biggest thing for any player, is their deployment. If they're not playing in the top 6, if they're playing power play 2, there's really no reason to add him. But with Vilardi here, since returning from injury, and I do know that Kyle Connor is hurt and Vilardi's been filling into the line 1 role, myself and TJ agreed that we can see him sustaining or maintaining this role as a line 1, power play 1 player when Connor is healthy, because that's what we saw prior to Vilardi's injury. So since returning from injury, 9 games played, 6 goals, 12 points, 26 shots, and 40 shot attempts. The biggest thing for me when players are beginning to play more minutes is, can they improve their shot rate in those improved minutes, and can they sustain their shot rate in those improved minutes? And that's what we've seen from Vilardi so far this season. 10 shots per 60, 2.6 shot increase from last season, and a 5.8 individual expected goals for per 60, plus 2.0 from 2022. So very big increases. Although he's playing more minutes, his per 60 rates have improved, and that's a very good sign from a player like Vilardi, who kind of broke out last season. Good deployment, good numbers. If you've streamed him, definitely a guy you want to be holding for the long term. He's been playing well. If his minutes start to drop and his opportunity starts to drop, then that's when you consider moving on from him. But for right now, if you've streamed him, definitely someone you want to be holding on to. The last player for this video, I know I've mentioned 2 players on 2 of the same teams, but John Carlson has stuck out to me as a defenseman that I think you should still be holding, as I'm seeing people in the Discord starting to try to entertain offers for Carlson at his lowest value. He's currently off to the worst start since 2019 at 1.2 points per 60 and a 4.9 shots per 60. These are the worst numbers we've seen from John Carlson, and we can expect these numbers to eventually regress back to the mean, and I will jump into why I think that will happen. But I want to get to the fact that John Carlson's still playing huge minutes right now, 25 minutes and 48 seconds, average time on ice, the second most in the NHL. Deployment still very strong. Pair 1, power play 1, with literally no competition there. So with Carlson, if he was playing 22 minutes right now and kind of going on and off the top power play unit, I would be a little bit more intrigued to sell him. But I think you're selling him at his lowest value right now. He has 1 goal on 59 shots this season, a 1.7% shooting percentage. Now, defensemen are extremely difficult to predict goals because a lot of defensemen have really low shot rates. But with Carlson, he actually historically has been a very strong goal-scoring defenseman, and his shooting percentage is about 5% lower than his career. So what I want to get into, and this is the important part of the video and the important part with Alex Ovechkin, is this anomaly happening with the Washington power play. Right now, they're at 3.3 power play goals per 60, and they only have 8 goals for. So this is the lowest power play goal rate I've seen since the last 5 seasons. 4.82 was the lowest, which was the Philadelphia Flyers 2 years ago. But with John Carlson and the Washington Capitals, 9.22 expected goals for on the power play, which would have them at 22 expected goals for. So right now they have 8 goals for and they have 22 expected. This number is eventually going to catch up to itself, and both Ovechkin and Carlson are going to be all over the score sheet. They have a 7.22 goals for per 60 on the power play since 2021. So this number is cut in half this season. They're getting extremely unlucky. They have the worst power play in the league right now. This number should come back to life at some point this season, and this is a great time to be either holding Carlson, and buying Ovechkin and their players on that top power play unit. That is the reason why I'm looking to hold Carlson and not move on from him. That will do it for the buy, sell, and hold video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.